In March 1905, on a foggy London afternoon, a small group of businessmen gathered at the Rising Sun pub near Stamford Bridge. At that moment, no one could have imagined they were laying the foundation for what would become one of the most powerful football clubs in Europe. The name they decided on, Chelsea Football Club. Back then, football in England was still developing, and clubs like Manchester United or Arsenal had not yet become the giants they are today. London had several teams, Arsenal in the north, Fulham to the west. But the area of Fulham near Stamford Bridge still lacked a football representative worthy of its people. Stamford Bridge Stadium already existed. Originally built for athletics, it could hold around 100,000 spectators. The owners wanted to form a football club to attract crowds to this colossal arena. And so Chelsea FC was born, not from football glory but from the need to fill empty stands. In its early years, Chelsea had something most clubs lacked: ambition. While other clubs fielded local or unknown players, Chelsea brought in stars like William "Fatty" Falk, a 150 kilograms goalkeeper whose presence alone was enough to shake any striker, and attracted attention with their flamboyant kits. Large fanbase and Stamford Bridge's grandeur. Despite being newly established, Chelsea quickly earned promotion to the First Division by 1907. Their playing style was flashy, entertaining, and appealed to the working-class Londoners who wanted both excitement and pride in their team. But early success didn't last long. Chelsea quickly became known as a yo-yo club, constantly bouncing between divisions. The club gained fans for its passion and uniqueness but never managed to secure any major trophies. It was a club with potential but lacking the finishing touch. During the interwar period, Chelsea became a club of the people. Their matches often drew record-breaking crowds. In 1935, a match against Arsenal saw over 82,000 fans attend at Stamford Bridge, an astonishing number even by today's standards. Still, trophies remained elusive. Then came World War II. Like many clubs, Chelsea halted operations and Stamford Bridge was used for wartime efforts. When the war ended, Chelsea returned but still struggled on the pitch. It wasn't until 1955, exactly 50 years after the club's founding, that they shocked the football world by winning the English First Division title for the first time. Under manager Ted Drake, a former Arsenal striker, a Chelsea transformed. Drake banned the club's lion mascot, cut flashy signings, and promoted team unity over individual stardom. That 1954-55 squad may not have been star-studded, but they played smart, disciplined football. Winning the league was an unforgettable moment for fans who had supported the Blues through decades of inconsistency. However, Chelsea then declined again. They failed to qualify for the newly formed European Cup, continued to be inconsistent in the league, and once again became a team that fans loved for their spirit but not for their success. Still, the seeds had been planted. Chelsea were now more than just a club in West London. They were a name, a symbol of flair, and most importantly, a sleeping giant waiting to awaken. The 1960s arrived, a time of cultural revolution across London. The Beatles, miniskirts, rock and roll, and youth rebellion were taking over the city. In this atmosphere, Chelsea Football Club emerged not just as a football team, but as a symbol of style, glamour, and the new generation. At the heart of this transformation was manager Tommy Docherty. Young, energetic, and ambitious, Docherty rebuilt Chelsea with youth in mind. He brought in exciting, fearless players Ron Harris, Peter Bonetti, Peter Osgood, and Charlie Cook, who would go on to define the club's identity. Chelsea became known for their attractive, attacking football. They were the King's Road team, representing a fashionable, swinging London. Their players mingled with rock stars and models. Stamford Bridge became more than a stadium, it was a stage where football met pop culture. But alongside the glamour came a gritty hard edge. The team wasn't afraid to get physical. Nicknamed Chopper, Ron Harris became infamous for his uncompromising tackles, while goalkeeper Peter Bonetti was a feline-like shot stopper who defied gravity. In 1965, Chelsea won the League Cup, their first major trophy since the league title a decade earlier. It wasn't a grand prize, but it marked a turning point. The fans could feel it. Chelsea were on the rise. They reached FA Cup and League Cup finals in the late 60s, but heartbreak followed. In 1967, they lost the FA Cup final to Tottenham. In 1970, they returned, and this time they wouldn't be denied. The 1970 FA Cup final between Chelsea and Leeds United became legendary. Leeds, known for their ruthless, physical play, took the fight to Chelsea. But the Blues refused to back down. The first match ended in a 2-2 draw. In the replay at Old Trafford, David Webb scored the winning goal in extra time to seal a dramatic 2-1 victory. It was more than a win, it was a war won. Players left the pitch battered, bruised, and bleeding. Fans across the country watched in awe. Chelsea had not only won the FA Cup, they'd earned respect. 2 years later, Chelsea added the European Cup Winners' Cup to their cabinet, defeating Real Madrid in a replay in Athens. Peter Osgood, the king of Stamford Bridge, scored again, his legend growing with each goal. But just as Chelsea reached new heights, cracks began to form. The club embarked on an ambitious plan to renovate Stamford Bridge, including building a massive East Stand. The project went over budget and left Chelsea in financial crisis. At the same time, key players aged or left, and performances declined. By the late 70s, the glamour was gone. Chelsea were relegated in 1975 and again in 1979. Crowds shrank. Hooliganism rose. Stamford Bridge, once the pride of London, fell into decay. Yet amid the gloom, the memory of Osgood's goals, Harris's tackles, and the magic of the 60s and 70s lived on. Chelsea had known glory. They had danced with the elite. And though they now trudged through the mud of lower divisions, the soul of the club refused to die. If the 60s and 70s were about flair and glory, then the 1980s were a harsh awakening for Chelsea Football Club. The dreams of dominance faded, replaced by financial disaster, internal turmoil, and a crumbling stadium. The once proud Blues were no longer kings of West London. They were fighting to survive. At the start of the decade, Chelsea was in the second division. Attendances plummeted. Stamford Bridge, once majestic, was now decaying, dangerous, and half-empty. Hooliganism surged across English football, and Chelsea became associated with some of the worst elements. The club's image suffered greatly, but perhaps the most damaging issue was off the pitch. During the renovation of Stamford Bridge in the 70s, the club made a critical error. They didn't retain full ownership of the land beneath the stadium. By the 80s, this decision came back to haunt them. A property development company, Marler Estates, attempted to take over the land and evict the club. Chelsea were not just battling relegation, they were battling for their very existence. During this dark period, hope came in the form of Ken Bates, a businessman who bought Chelsea in 1982 for just £1. Yes, £1. But more importantly, he brought with him determination, legal grit, and a deep desire to preserve the club. Bates fought tooth and nail to regain control of Stamford Bridge. Lawsuits, protests, and boardroom battles followed. For years, Chelsea teetered on the edge of losing their home. But eventually, after a long legal war, the stadium was saved, and with it, the club's soul. On the pitch, however, Chelsea remained inconsistent. They earned promotion to the First Division in 1984, but were relegated again in 1988. Players came and went, but true stars were rare. Matches were tense, often ugly. The joy was gone. Then came a flicker of light. In the early 90s, under manager Glenn Hoddle, Chelsea started to show signs of life. Hoddle brought tactical intelligence and attracted bigger names. In 1994, Chelsea reached the FA Cup final, their first major final in over 2 decades. They lost to Manchester United, but the hunger had returned. And then, in 1996, everything changed. Chelsea signed Ruud Gullit, former Ballon d'Or winner, and shortly after, Gianluca Vialli and Gianfranco Zola. True global superstars. Suddenly, Chelsea were no longer chasing survival. They were chasing ambition again. The club began playing stylish football, European-style passing, creativity, flair, completely different from the physical, direct style typical of English clubs in that era. Fans started returning to Stamford Bridge. There was magic again in West London. By the time Chelsea lifted the FA Cup in 1997, beating Middlesbrough, something had shifted. A sleeping giant was beginning to stir. A new chapter was coming. They had survived the darkest days. The name Chelsea still stood, and now they were ready to rise. By the late 1990s, Chelsea was no longer the underdog fighting to survive. They had become a club reborn, stylish, ambitious, and European in flavor. With star signings and bold managers, the Blues began shaping their modern identity. At the center of this transformation was Gianfranco Zola. The little Italian maestro arrived in 1996 from Parma. What he lacked in size, he made up for in magic. With sublime technique, vision, and sportsmanship, Zola dazzled fans with every touch. He didn't just play football, he performed it like art. Chelsea fans instantly fell in love. Zola became a symbol of joy of the new Chelsea. The team around him was a blend of flair and strength. Dennis Wise, the tenacious captain, Roberto Di Matteo, who scored in just 42 seconds in the 1997 FA Cup final. Gustavo Poyet, Tor Andre Flo, and Frank Leboeuf. The squad was diverse, technical, and different from most English clubs of the time. Under managers like Ruud Gullit and later Gianluca Vialli, Chelsea developed a fluid, attacking style that thrilled fans. Between 1997 and 2000, the club won several trophies. FA Cup 1997-2000, League Cup 1998, UEFA Cup Winners' Cup 1998, UEFA Super Cup 1998, beating Real Madrid. These victories were significant, not just for the silverware, but for the mentality shift. Chelsea was now a team of winners, not just entertainers. European nights at Stamford Bridge became special. The fans, long starved of continental glory, embraced the magic. When Zola scored a stunning backheel against Norwich or floated in a genius free kick in Europe, the stadium roared. Chelsea were writing a new story, one of elegance and ambition. In 2000, they moved into the new millennium with momentum. The club was no longer just a name in West London, it was a contender. Yet there was still a ceiling. While Chelsea could win cups, the league title remained elusive. The squad lacked the consistency of Manchester United or Arsenal, who dominated the Premier League at the time. Enter Claudio Ranieri, an Italian coach known for his tactical tinkering and calm demeanor. Under Ranieri, Chelsea began to modernize further, both tactically and structurally. They scouted smartly, invested wisely, and continued playing attractive football. But despite progress, they still fell short. And then, in the summer of 2003, the entire landscape of football and of Chelsea changed forever. Summer 2003. The world of football was rocked when a Russian billionaire named Roman Abramovich bought Chelsea Football Club. Overnight, Chelsea went from a club with ambition to a club with unlimited potential and, more importantly, unlimited resources. This wasn't just a business deal. It was a revolution. Abramovich, previously unknown to the football world, injected over £100 million into the club in his first summer. Chelsea signed Claude Makelele, Damien Duff, Joe Cole, Hernan Crespo, Juan Sebastian Veron, Adrian Mutu, Wayne Bridge, and others. It was one of the most explosive transfer windows in football history. The message was clear: Chelsea were no longer here to participate. They were here to dominate. Despite the massive investment, manager Claudio Ranieri failed to win a trophy. The Blues finished second in the Premier League and reached the Champions League semi-finals, but that wasn't enough. In 2004, Abramovich made a bold move, hiring José Mourinho, the charismatic Portuguese coach who had just led FC Porto to a stunning Champions League triumph. Mourinho arrived at Stamford Bridge and declared himself the special one. That confidence, bordering on arrogance, matched perfectly with Abramovich's ambition. Under Mourinho, Chelsea transformed into an unstoppable force. In his very first season, 2004-05, Chelsea won the Premier League with a then-record 95 points, conceded only 15 goals all season, won the League Cup, set a new standard for English football dominance. With a spine of Petr Cech, John Terry, Frank Lampard, and Didier Drogba, Chelsea had power, discipline, and leadership. They weren't just strong, they were relentless. In 2005-06, they retained the Premier League title. Mourinho's Chelsea was a machine. The midfield, led by Makelele and Lampard, controlled games. Drogba bullied defenders. Terry led with courage. The team played pragmatic but winning football. Chelsea were no longer a joke to the elite. They were the elite. Off the pitch, Abramovich modernized the club. He improved infrastructure, invested in youth development, and globalized Chelsea's brand. The Blues became one of the most recognized names in world football. Yet the era was not without controversy. Mourinho clashed with referees, the FA, and sometimes his own board. In 2007, despite success, tensions with Abramovich led to his shocking departure. Chelsea fans were heartbroken, their hero was gone. Avram Grant took over and led the club to the 2008 Champions League final in Moscow. There, Chelsea faced Manchester United in a dramatic match. After a 1-1 draw, it went to penalties. John Terry stepped up for the potential winning kick. He slipped. The ball hit the post. Chelsea lost. It was a night of heartbreak, and Terry's tears became an iconic image of Chelsea's near miss. But rather than destroy the club, it made them hungrier. Over the next few seasons, Chelsea remained competitive under managers like Luis Felipe Scolari, Good Hiddink, and Carlo Ancelotti. Under Ancelotti, Chelsea played some of their best ever attacking football and won the Premier League and FA Cup double in 2009-10, scoring 103 league goals. The Roman Abramovich era had redefined what Chelsea stood for. Power, success, global reach, unapologetic ambition. But one dream remained unfulfilled, the Champions League. And soon, that dream would be realized in the most dramatic way imaginable. For years, Chelsea chased Europe's ultimate prize, the UEFA Champions League. They came close in 2008 only to suffer heartbreak in Moscow. Year after year, they tried. Year after year, they fell short. But in 2012, everything changed. It was a season filled with chaos. Manager Andre Villas-Boas was sacked midway. Club legend Roberto Di Matteo took over as interim coach. The squad was aging. Form was inconsistent. Even Chelsea fans didn't dare to believe this could be the year. Then came the miracle run. In the round of 16, Chelsea were crushed 3-1 away by Napoli. Elimination seemed inevitable. But in the return leg at Stamford Bridge, something magical happened. Frank Lampard, Branislav Ivanovic, and the old guard led a heroic comeback. Chelsea won 4-1 after extra time, and hope was reborn. In the semi-finals, they faced the mighty Barcelona led by Lionel Messi and arguably the best team in history. Chelsea drew 1-1 at home, but few gave them a chance at the Camp Nou. Then came one of the most iconic nights in Chelsea history. Barcelona took a 2-0 lead. Captain John Terry was sent off. Chelsea were down to 10 men, losing on aggregate. But they didn't collapse. They fought. Ramirez chipped in a stunning goal before halftime. Then, deep into the second half, Fernando Torres, once mocked and doubted, scored the goal that sent Chelsea to the final. The opponent, Bayern Munich. The location, Munich, Bayern's own stadium. The pressure, enormous. For 88 minutes, Bayern dominated. Chelsea held on desperately. Then, from a corner, Didier Drogba rose like a lion and smashed in a header to equalize. 1-1. Extra time. In the 95th minute, Bayern were awarded a penalty. Chelsea heart sank, but Petr Cech saved it. Then came penalties. Chelsea scored. Bayern scored. And then Drogba stepped up for the final kick. He buried it. Chelsea were champions of Europe. Tears flowed. Drogba fell to the ground. Lampard lifted the trophy. Stamford Bridge exploded in celebration. It wasn't just a victory. It was redemption, vindication, and a dream fulfilled. That night in Munich became the defining moment of Chelsea's modern history. Not just for the silverware, but for the journey, the loyalty, the resilience, the belief against all odds. Roberto Di Matteo was rewarded with a full-time job. But within months, poor results saw him replaced by Rafa Benitez, who led the Blues to win the Europa League in 2013. Chelsea had now won every major European trophy. They were no longer chasing legacy. They had won. But Roman Abramovich wasn't done yet. The goal was always sustained success, and more trophies were yet to come. After the unforgettable triumph in Munich, Chelsea continued to evolve. New managers came and went, players rotated, and the club remained in pursuit of excellence. The Roman Abramovich era remained relentless. Success was expected, demanded. In 2014, Jose Mourinho returned for a second spell. This time, older and more measured, but still fiercely competitive. With key signings like Diego Costa, Cesc Fabregas, and Nemanja Matic, Chelsea built a powerful squad. The result? Premier League title 2014-15. League Cup 2015. Mourinho's second reign brought dominance and swagger. Costa bullied defenders. Hazard dazzled. Terry marshaled the back line. Chelsea were champions once more. But by the next season, internal conflict and poor form saw Mourinho dismissed in late 2015. Then came Antonio Conte, the fiery Italian. He introduced the 3-4-3 formation to English football and revolutionized Chelsea's style. Under Conte, the Blues went on a record-breaking winning streak and won the Premier League in 2016-17 in dominant fashion. Conte's passion on the sidelines, his tactical brilliance, and his trust in players like Victor Moses, Marcos Alonso, and N'Golo Kante made Chelsea thrilling to watch. The following year, he added the FA Cup 2018 to his collection, but his relationship with the board soured and he too departed. In came Maurizio Sarri, a controversial appointment but a purist of the game. Cerebral brought short, quick passes and technical dominance. Under him, Chelsea reached the League Cup final and, more importantly, won the UEFA Europa League in 2019, beating Arsenal 4-1 in Baku. The star of that final? Eden Hazard in his last game for Chelsea. With 2 goals and 1 assist, he left the club with legendary status. 7 years. Countless dribbles. Moments of genius. Hazard was the soul of Chelsea's attacking play for a generation. After Sarri came a familiar face. Frank Lampard. The club legend returned as manager in 2019. With Chelsea under a transfer ban, Lampard promoted youth Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Reece James, and Fikayo Tomori. Chelsea finished top 4 and reached an FA Cup final. But in his second season, results dipped. In January 2021, Lampard was replaced by Thomas Tuchel, a German tactician with a modern approach. What happened next was historic. Tuchel tightened Chelsea's defense. The team became incredibly organized, and in May 2021, Chelsea beat Manchester City 1-0 in the Champions League final with a goal from Kai Havertz. It was Chelsea's second European crown and one that came after just 4 months under Tuchel. Once again, Chelsea had conquered Europe. Once again, under a new coach. Once again, defying expectations. Tuchel became a fan favorite. He led Chelsea to the UEFA Super Cup 2021 and FIFA Club World Cup 2022, making the club world champions. The squad was a blend of youth and experience. Mason Mount, the academy gem. Edouard Mendy, a Cinderella story in goal. Thiago Silva, the ageless warrior. N'Golo Kante, tireless and beloved. Reece James, a future captain. Chelsea were competitive, exciting, and respected across Europe. But storm clouds were gathering. Off the pitch, political events would soon shake the club to its core. Roman Abramovich, the man who built Chelsea into a powerhouse, would soon be forced to say goodbye. In early 2022, world politics collided with football. Russia's invasion of Ukraine prompted sweeping sanctions against Russian oligarchs, including Roman Abramovich. The UK government froze his assets, and with it, Chelsea's operations came to a halt. For the first time in modern football history, a Champions League club was unable to sell tickets, buy players, or operate normally. Abramovich was forced to sell the club. It was the end of an era. After nearly 20 years, over 20 major trophies, and a total transformation of the club's identity, the man who built Chelsea's golden age was gone. In May 2022, American businessman Todd Boehly and his consortium, Clearlake Capital, completed the purchase of Chelsea for £4.25 billion. A new chapter began. Boehly promised investment, modernization, and long-term vision. But the transition was anything but smooth. Chaos and overhaul. Within months, manager Thomas Tuchel, who had led Chelsea to Champions League glory just a year prior, was shockingly sacked. Boehly cited differences in vision and communication. In came Graham Potter, hailed for his work at Brighton and his modern football approach. But Potter faced immense pressure. An injury crisis, massive squad size, and lack of chemistry haunted his tenure. Meanwhile, Boehly and his team spent over £600 million in transfers, more than any club in football history within 2 windows. Big names arrived. Enzo Fernandez, World Cup winner. Mikhail Mudryk. Joao Felix on loan. Benoit Badiashile. Noni Madueke. Wesley Fofana, Marc Cucurella, and others. The squad became bloated. Dozens of players, many under 23, struggled to gel. Potter couldn't find consistency. Results were poor. In April 2023, he was sacked. Frank Lampard returned as interim, but performances worsened. Chelsea finished 12th in the Premier League, their lowest position in over 25 years. Maresca and the rebuild. In summer 2024, Chelsea made yet another bold decision. They appointed Enzo Maresca, a young, tactically astute coach who had just guided Leicester City back to the Premier League. Maresca, a former assistant to Pep Guardiola, brought with him a clear football philosophy. Positional play, high pressing, ball control. Chelsea were betting on a long-term rebuild, not short-term glory. The current squad was full of young talent. Cole Palmer, the star of the new Chelsea. Reece James, club captain, homegrown and passionate. Levi Colwill, Malo Gusto, Carney Chukwuemeka. Christopher Nkunku, finally fit. Moises Caicedo and Romeo Lavia, midfield engines. Enzo Fernandez, the Argentine maestro. The goal? Build a sustainable football model, one that doesn't rely solely on star power or massive spending, but on identity, youth, and development. But fans remained skeptical. After the Abramovich era of relentless success, they weren't used to long-term projects or patience. Would Maresca be given time? Would Boli learn from early missteps? Would Chelsea return to the top? Only time would tell. One thing was certain, Chelsea were no longer the finished product, they were a work in progress. But deep within Stamford Bridge, something was being rebuilt. Slowly, carefully, with purpose. Trophies can be counted. Matches can be measured. But what truly defines a football club is its people. Those who wear the shirt, sing from the stands, and leave their hearts on the pitch. Chelsea's legacy is not just built on silverware. It's built on legends, loyalty, and love. Frank Lampard, the goal machine midfielder. No name resonates louder at Chelsea than Frank Lampard. Signed from West Ham in 2001, many doubted his price tag. But Lampard became the club's all-time top scorer, with 211 goals from midfield. He wasn't just a goal scorer. He was a leader, an icon, a constant. He defined an era. From volleys against Bayern Munich to decisive penalties on title runs, Lampard was always there, calm, clinical, and Chelsea through and through. John Terry, captain, leader, legend. He bled blue. John Terry, the academy boy turned club captain, was the rock of Chelsea's defense for over a decade. Brave, fierce, vocal, Terry led the team through countless battles. He lifted trophies, blocked shots, and inspired everyone around him. Despite the tears in Moscow, despite criticism off the pitch, Terry stood tall. His leadership in defense alongside Ricardo Carvalho, then David Luiz, made Chelsea formidable. Didier Drogba, the big game hero. When the lights were brightest, Drogba delivered. Powerful, dramatic, clutch, he scored in 10 finals for Chelsea and became the face of their greatest triumphs. The 2012 Champions League final in Munich? A Drogba header saved Chelsea. His penalty won it. Off the pitch, he built schools in Africa. On the pitch, he built dreams in London. Gianfranco Zola, the little magician. Before the trophies, before Abramovich, there was Zola. The Italian wizard lit up Stamford Bridge with joy. Every flick, dribble, and free kick felt magical. He never needed to win the Premier League, he won the hearts. When Zola retired, even opposition fans applauded. He made football beautiful. Petr Cech, the wall and goal. One of the greatest goalkeepers of his generation, Cech was Chelsea's last line of defense. From that penalty save in 2012 to countless clean sheets under Mourinho, Cech was reliable, fearless, and world-class. N'Golo Kante, humility in motion. He won the World Cup. He won the Premier League twice. He conquered Europe. But Kante never changed, humble, quiet, and relentless. On the pitch, he was everywhere. Off it, he was the embodiment of Chelsea's grace. The Academy boys, a new generation. In recent years, Chelsea's Cobham Academy has produced talent that now forms the club's spine. Reece James, the homegrown captain. Mason Mount, once the heartbeat before moving on. Trevoh Chalobah, Levi Colwill, Conor Gallagher, all proud products of Chelsea's youth system. They represent the future and the soul of the club. The fans, the 12th man. Through glory and struggle, Chelsea fans have remained loyal. From the shed end to global watch parties in Africa, Asia, and the Americas, the Blue Army sings loud. Blue is the Color isn't just a song. It's an anthem of belonging. Whether it's a cold Wednesday in January or a Champions League night in May, Stamford Bridge pulses with emotion. Flags wave, drums beat, and voices unite. Because Chelsea isn't just a club, it's a feeling. A legacy passed from parent to child. From the terraces to television screens. From Zola to Palmer. From Di Matteo to Maresca. And that legacy is still being written. As the sun sets over Stamford Bridge and the floodlights cast long shadows across the pitch, one thing is clear: Chelsea Football Club is still standing. Still fighting. Still dreaming. This is not the end of the story. It's another beginning. Chelsea today, a club in transition. The Chelsea of 2025 is no longer the same club that lifted the Champions League in Munich or dominated under Mourinho. The stars of old have retired or moved on. The owners have changed. The squad is young, the vision different. Under Enzo Maresca, a new chapter is being written. Maresca, a student of Pep Guardiola's tactical school, brings a fresh approach: structured build-up, positional play, high pressing. His Chelsea aims to control, not just compete. And the squad? It's a blend of youthful talent and global potential. Cole Palmer, the creative spark, a rising star. Enzo Fernandez, elegant, visionary World Cup winner. Moises Caicedo, the defensive shield. Reece James, the captain, homegrown and brave. Lavia, Gusto, Colwill, all under 25, all with a point to prove. They are not yet legends, but they are builders of a new legacy. The club, for now, isn't playing Champions League football. Some see that as a step back. But it might just be the opportunity Chelsea needs to rebuild slowly, wisely, and intentionally. The near future. Opportunity or turmoil? Chelsea stands at a crossroads. The path ahead is unclear, but full of possibility. Will Maresca succeed? Will the ownership group stay patient? Will the young stars fulfill their potential? If the answer is yes, then a new golden age could emerge. Not built on superstars, but on system, vision, and identity. But if not, Chelsea risks becoming what they once mocked. A club of noise without substance. A revolving door of managers and unfinished projects. The next 2 to 3 seasons will define the direction of the next decade. The distant future. What will Chelsea be? 20 years from now, who will Chelsea be? It's hard to say, but if history tells us anything, it's this: Chelsea always returns, always adapts, always rises. The club has survived bankruptcy, relegation, legal battles, ownership crises, and global scrutiny. It has tasted the ultimate highs and crushing lows. Yet, through it all, Chelsea remains Chelsea. The name still echoes across Europe. The badge still inspires. The bridge still stands. And so long as fans sing "Blue is the Color," Chelsea will never fade. Because this club is more than trophies or tactics. It is resilience, passion, reinvention. It's Osgood's flair, Lampard's thunderbolts, Drogba's power. It's Zola's smile, Hazard's dribbles, Mount's heart. It's fans on the terraces. Kids wearing the kit. Tears, cheers, memories. Chelsea isn't finished. It's unfinished on purpose so that each generation can add their chapter. So here's to the next chapter. To the next breakthrough. To the next night in Munich, the next captain to lift silver, the next child to fall in love with the Blues. Because Chelsea is not just a club. Chelsea is a dynasty in motion.